What's the funniest thing you've done seen someone do in a classroom? English 20. I had an exam on Shakespeare. The night before I had helped my sister prep for her in-class essay with the same teacher in English 30. My sister had problems with the course, and I excelled, so my teacher suggested I help her. Anyways, in the middle of my exam my teacher walks up, and without thinking, says thank you for last night and walks away. Everybody in the class looked up at me. In HS, a classmate stripped off his clothing to reveal a Spider-Man suit. He then put on a mask and climbed out the second-story window and proceeded to walk along the ledge to another classroom and entered that classroom through the window. At university, we were getting a lecture from a male professor who's well liked, but everyone's always suspected he's gay. He was halfway through a lecture once, talking about a gay Spanish film director. He paused, with everyone looking at him intently, and said, "I'm not, you know." Someone shouted out, "What? Spanish?" Professor was a mild-mannered, soft-spoken, short Indian man part-timer who left his job a few minutes early on Tuesdays and Thursdays to teach class. He was often quite late due to traffic. One student came in very drunk, hardly able to stand up. After about 5 minutes of no teacher, he decided he would use the teacher's desk and the empty chairs to build a tower to the ceiling. After 10 minutes of people egging him on and suggesting how to build it, he finished. He then proceeded to give a sex ed lecture for the next 15 minutes, drawing pictures on the whiteboard to help. At that point the teacher walks into a falling over drunk guy yelling about vaginas in front of a chair tower and a whiteboard filled with stick figure sex. Everyone gets real silent, and the drunk guy tells him, "Don't worry, I kept them busy for ya." As he stumbles to his desk, the teacher just kinda stares about and doesn't say a word, before silently erasing the whiteboard and starting his lesson. I set up a PowerPoint display in which I took various screenshots of the desktop and programs in sequential order. Just the desktop. Start menu open. Programs open. Office launched, etc. I swapped mice with my buddy next to me, so I had his, and he had mine. I then proceeded to call the teacher over and show him how I programmed a touch screen. I'd touch a place on the screen, and at the same time my buddy would click the mouse to advance the slide. My teacher and most of the students fell for it, with my teacher saying any monitor can become a touch screen to some of the students who asked how I did it. This was a Visual Basic high school course. The teacher was really that bad and really did believe it until someone pointed out the swapped mice a while later. There was a kid at my school called Scene who once got into a screaming match with a teacher in history class. It continued to the point where the teacher knocked a chair over and stormed out. Now, at this time our history classroom was at the top of a 3-story building, and right after she left this kid went over to the window, opened it and then picked up a chair and headed out the door. He went all the way down to the ground outside, put the chair on its side underneath the window, and then laid face down with his arms and legs sprawled out at crazy angles. At the time we thought he was in so much trouble that we weren't even laughing. So the teacher came back yelling, only to find the whole class crowded around the window in complete silence, with this kid lying face down on the ground 3 stories below. If you've ever seen someone go from normal to complete nervous breakdown in 10 seconds you will not forget it. That kid is now part of legend. I don't understand why he had to take a chair downstairs and lay it on its side. I don't know either, but somehow it makes it funnier to me. Like you would jump out of a window sitting in a chair or something. I have no idea. In 11th grade US history, we all had to do some creative report on some aspect of WWII. Creative meant we had to use some other visual aid besides standing in front of the class and simply speaking. One kid, a smart-ass one-aid metalhead, was assigned the topic of kamikazes, and he decided to make a video. The first part was him and a few buddies lighting paper airplanes on fire and throwing them at plastic ships in a bathtub and making the EERO sounds. This was already pretty funny, but then at the halfway point, while the audio continued as above, the video shifted to shot after shot of naked, jiggling tits of all shapes and sizes. It went on for several seconds of tense silence before the room erupted in laughter. Only then did the teacher finally look up from whatever he had been doing and unplug the projector. It was the stuff of legend. Kamikaze became slang for tits at our high school for at least the rest of my time there. High school physics. Teacher is explaining something about mass and weight. He's idly tossing a red brick in his hand to subtly illustrate his point. Obnoxious kid in the front row is half dozing away. Teacher throws the brick at him. Kid nearly flips his desk over trying to dodge. What no one noticed was that while he was talking, the teacher dropped his hand below the level of his lab table and covertly swapped the real brick with an identical looking foam one. English 1A in college. My professor, one of the coolest dudes I have ever met, was having a mid-class conversation with a student about the drug acid. The kid was saying how he was interested in it, and my teacher was talking him out of it. The prof said, "You don't understand. That shit can change you," during which sentence the kids on the other side of the classroom kept talking louder and louder. Finally the prof turns and shouts, "Hey, Methodicas, shut the duck up." The classroom goes silent, and he says, "God damn it, I just called the class a bunch of Methodicas. I'm gonna get fired," with a chuckle. Freshman year of high school, when Staples had that easy button ad campaign, a kid had gotten hold of one of their promotional buttons that would say, "That was easy," in a slightly creepy male voice. So one day, we were sitting in health class getting a detailed lecture on the process of making a baby. Then, right as the teacher says, "And boom, she's pregnant," the whole class goes silent, and we hear that creepy voice say, "That was easy." We died laughing. In our mandatory 9th grade life management class, we had CPR dummies called the Actor 2000. We had assigned seating, and this was how roll was taken. This one guy took one of the dummies before class started, put his hat and flannel shirt on it, and put it in his chair. Old teacher takes roll and teaches about 30 minutes of class before noticing. The whole time the kid is behind her in the closest storage area making faces and hamming it up. Priceless. During finals one semester, my roommate asked me if he could come along for my test to see if they would let him take it, even though he was not in the class. He was going to the same course next semester and wanted to preview the final. Now this was a lecture class with about 100 students, so I didn't think there would be a problem. My roommate comes in, sits down, and naturally receives a test for which we are told we have 2 hours. We begin, and there are 10 minutes of silence with everyone working away. My roommate patiently sitting in the back row with his test. All of a sudden, he stands, holds his hands and test up in the air, and starts running full speed down the stairs to the stage in front of the lecture hall. He slams the test down on the table, screams, "I won," and darts out the rear entrance. I struggled to hold back tears of laughter, and the look of WTF on everyone's faces as they looked around at each other was priceless. I doubt anyone will see this, but here it goes. In 10th grade, this kid Ryan came into gym class late for the millionth time. The teacher didn't appreciate it and said, "I told you, you need a pass if you're going to come late to my class." So he went into the teacher's office and made out a pass for himself and signed the principal's name. He handed it to the teacher, who said, "You're in trouble now." Ryan, "Why?" "Teacher, you forged a pass." Ryan grabs pass out of teacher's hand and eats said, "What pass?" They went to the principal's office together and came back 10 minutes later. Turns out the teacher said what he said, and Ryan's response was, "Do I look like I would eat a pass?" And the principal let him go. I used to sit at the same table with a friend in high school biology class. This guy had a seriously short temper. One week, we had a multi-page report that needed to be put together. It was lengthy, so the teacher ended up letting people have a few extra days to finish it. My friend had actually finished his on time and turned it in on the original due date. However, this teacher kept confusing him with someone else. On the first extension day, she asked him if he was done. He politely handed it back to her. She noted that she had already graded it and gave it back to him. Great. Except she asked him again on the second day. He politely did the same. On the third day, she asked him again. He grabbed his book bag and stood up, pulled out the report, dropped the bag, rolled the report up like he was going to hit someone with it, pointed it at her and yelled, "We've been over this before," and threw it on her desk. The teacher, embarrassed, pretended not to notice and called on the next person. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,